G'day everyone, welcome to another Toon podcast. It's a United Series episode 4. We've got another special guest tonight. He's a former cricketer who has represented Australia in all 3 formats of the game with a neat little average of 41 as well in one-day cricket, Dimi, if you didn't know that already. Now he's a part of the seven commentary team for our Summer of Cricket, and you can catch him with Nerily Meadows on ESPN's Around the Wicket as well. And you can listen to that also on where you get your podcast after you've listened to this. So it's a big Toon Under welcome to Callum Ferguson. Callum, how you going?
I'm great, thanks, guys. I'm pumped to be on this. It's taken a bit longer than you folks and I probably thought it would take, but I finally got my kids in order and we're all sorted.
Awesome. So just before we get started, we're a little over a week away from Newcastle coming over here to Melbourne for the Tottenham game against the A-League All-Stars and stuff like this. So everyone jump on your socials, jump into Aussie Mags, and they'll give you all your pre-game details and anything like that. And if you can get there early, we suggest you get there early. It might be a little bit of a surprise for everyone going there pre-game. So if you can get there early, please do that. Are you coming to Melbourne, Cal, or you got too much stuff over in Adelaide to get over?
Yeah, I've got a trip booked away with some mates that I'm going to get back from just before. So I'm still trying to get it over the line and try and make it work with ESPN as well. But if I can manage it, I'm going to do everything I can. But it'd be a great opportunity for the Aussie fans, the Aussie Toon fans to get over and see them live. And we might even see an Aussie getting a run from what I'm hearing.
We are. Yeah, we did drop that. Oh, we didn't drop it. The club dropped it last week that Graham Crowell's going to be coming back home. So, be his first chance wearing the black and white shirt. So, it'd be interesting to see how he goes, and be pretty interesting to see what his next 12 months look like as well. So, hopefully things work out from him. So we are a few months out of our cricket season, Callum, but as a cricket fans like myself and everyone else knows, the cricket never stops. So, what have you been up to? What does your life look like once our cricket summer finishes?
Yeah, look, it's a pretty busy summer, and I work with Triple M, doing every day of international cricket for the summer, and then with Channel 7 with the Big Bash, a full schedule there. So it's a hectic and nuts summer, which is great. I love the cricket, obviously, and I've really enjoyed stepping into the media. I get to work with some of the greats of the game, which is fantastic, and watch a lot of great cricket. But once the summer finishes, I really do try and settle into home life as much as possible. I did sneak a retired players legends cricket tournament over in Sri Lanka, which awesome. I really didn't appreciate at all. I managed to survive I think my legs were just about ready to drop off by the end of it, but that was good fun. Caught up with some old teammates like Dan Christian, Aaron Finch, Sean Marsh, Cameron White, so Ben Dunk. That was fantastic. Good to have a hit him a bit better than I expected, but a lot of it was just really wailing at the ball in self-preservation, making sure it didn't hit me in the head. So it was some good fun. But then post that, I host a golf tour down to Tasmania with Bluey once a year, Greg Blewett. That's called the Bass Strait Masters. So I did that for 4 days. And now it's really daddy daycare, maybe a round of golf with the old man once a week, and watching the Toon late at night.
Yes, awesome. So how did you go? Like when you obviously finished up playing and then the transition into the commentary sort of side of things, how did you find all that? Like was it difficult to kind of let go of the, like we all think we can keep playing sport for forever. Was it hard to kind of let it go and stuff, or did you kind of come to peace with it that I'm done here and I think this is the next sort of phase of my life is in the commentary booth?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think when I made the initial decision, I'd just come back from the Pakistan Super League. I'd played over there, and I'd come back into a 2-week quarantine, and that's enough to put anyone off travelling overseas to play cricket. And once I got through that, I'd had a couple of conversations with Triple M and Channel 7. And at that point, the Sydney Thunder had let me off contract. So then they told me I wasn't going to get another one. And I was pretty disappointed by that. And I must say, I was a little bit angry at the time. And I suppose when they knocked on the door and sort of suggested there might be some work for me full-time, I was looking at it, do I start at a new team, play another year or two, which I'd always sort of expected to play probably another year or two through that period. I think when they gave me that sort of long-term view. Young family, I sort of thought, you know what, it might be a good time to jump into it. You're never guaranteed those opportunities will be there down the track. There's a lot of great media personalities around in the wings, in the playing group across Australia. So I sort of wanted to take the opportunity while it was there. I've got some good mentors in my life. Greg Blewett, who I mentioned before, was one of them. I had a good conversation with James Brayshaw as well. He retired a bit earlier than he was expecting. He was someone, so he retired at 28 after his best year of cricket, which certainly wasn't my best year of cricket, but I was playing pretty well. And he said,
Yeah.
it's nice to walk away with knowing you're still throwing a punch or two. And, I walked away without that bitterness and that frustration of, I suppose, playing really poorly at the end of my career and losing my career, I suppose, to poor form. I walked away feeling like I was playing pretty well, and it sits really comfortably with me. And as I mentioned before, I'm very lucky with who I get to work with on a daily basis through the summer.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's funny, I watch you on the Channel 7 coverage and I listen to Triple M when I'm at work and driving around and stuff like that. So I know it might be easy to say from the cheap seats, but I think you did make the right decision. I think you're really good on the commentary, both on the TV, and
thank you.
You've got that good balance between insight, but a bit of you're not as serious and things like that. You're a bit more laid back, which comes across really well on, especially Triple M coverage. That is a bit looser than what the TV sort of stuff is.
The constant battle with Triple M to find the balance.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Tubby Taylor straightens us up a bit.
Yes. So how does a bloke born in South Australia come to follow Newcastle United?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a long way from home, I suppose. But I went over to play for the first time in the UK cricket as an overseas professional when I was 19. I just finished my first full year of Shield cricket, and a club called Gateshead Fell. It was no more. I was staying no more than 5 minutes out of the city centre in Newcastle, and so I was playing for Gateshead Fell. I played it for about 12, 13 weeks, I reckon, through that summer. And the fella I was living with at the time, he was one of the most diehard supporters of any sport you would ever come across. And he was a staunch royalist and a staunch Newcastle United fan. And right up next to the photo of the Queen was Alan Shearer's photo, and it was. So I was neck deep in it from the minute I set foot in the UK for the first time, and haven't looked back. And I think the passion of the Newcastle fans is like nothing I'd seen at that point and seen since. It was, I suppose it was almost love at first sight, really. I mean, yet we had a guy like Alan Shearer fronting the lines, one of the greats of international football, let alone Premier League football. And it was a pretty easy club to fall in love with, just on the back of the passion of the fans. And then we had our own Aussie, Mark Viduka, front up not too long after, actually.
Yeah.
Which was great. And I've actually got Mark Viduka 36 right here. So
mate, I've got the exact same one.
Sits proudly in the wardrobe and hasn't gone anywhere. It's gone everywhere with me. So that's the
awesome
there, and a lot of fans will remember that one. But it was a pity he ran through a few injury issues when he was at the Toon, because whenever he stepped foot out there, he made everything he touched turn to gold.
Yeah, he was awesome. And you're the second bloke I know that's got that shirt. I thought I was the only one, so it's good to know that someone else has got it as well. So
that's it.
Did you? This is a bit of a random question. Did you play against Ashington when you were over there as well?
Yeah, yep. I did.
Yeah. So did you? Yeah, I remember. Did you play against Steve Harmison, or was he a bit younger than you?
Yeah, so he, he would have been a similar age, I reckon, but he wasn't playing. He would have been too busy with probably Durham or England at that stage, I reckon. But I didn't actually play against Steve. But I actually met Steve. He when I was playing for Australia, he took myself and about 6 or 7 others through a tour of St James's on a game day against Norwich, and got to sit up there with him, we got looked after really well, and he brought me out a shirt. Which was really cool, and that didn't have a name or a number on it, but sits proudly in the wardrobe as well. So that was when I was on tour with the one-day squad back in about 2009, I reckon. So that was a pretty cool moment. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He's also, I've been lucky enough. So he's actually really good friends with my cousin who lives in Ashington as well. And
Oh right.
yeah, it's a funny. We were just at the pub one night when I was over there, and he's telling me that he's really good friends with Steve Harmison. And oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
I'm sure you are, mate. Yeah, good on you. He goes, oh, I'll ring him and I'll get him to come here. I go, no, you do that. Yeah, give him a call. And 15 minutes later, he walks in the pub. Oh no, he's actually being serious. He does really know him. So yeah, I was lucky enough. I spent a good night having a few cordials with him. So that was really fun. And he organised tickets for me and my dad to go to a 2020. I think it was a 2020 Blast. It might have been at the time over in the
brilliant.
UK. But in typical English weather, it hosed down the whole day and the whole round of matches got washed out. So we never actually went. But it's still a good bloke. He's a ripping bloke and loves the Toon. And I think he's got a box there, doesn't he? I think
he's an ambassador for the club.
Yeah. I think that happened
I'm
after
assuming
the
he still is, but that was
05 Ashes. I think I remember reading something that he did get after they won the Ashes in 05 in that epic series. I think he got...
Yeah, his box, I reckon, is open air as well, which is great.
Yeah,
that's where we're at. You get the full experience, which at St James's is everything because
it's awesome.
We all know how passionate they are and what a great crowd it is.
Yeah, so is that the only time that you've been there, or have you been there on a couple of other occasions for some games and stuff?
No, that's the only one I've been there for a game. I actually went there and checked it all out as a young bloke, but then that's the only Premier League. No, it wasn't a Premier League. That was a Championship game. That's the only one I'd actually been to at St James's. I watched us play at Old Trafford. I got a bit lucky.
Oh, that would have been good. Yeah.
Watch us play at Old Trafford, and Obafemi Martins put us ahead at one point. And you couldn't hear. I was at the same end as our supporters, and half of them had their shirts off. It was about 2 degrees, and they were throwing everything into the air. We're at the same end, opposite corner. Couldn't hear them. The silence was louder than our fans. It was incredible.
Wow.
But then when they levelled it, the whole place felt like it was going to fall down. It was shaking
so
heavily. But what an atmosphere. But it was just great to get to an away game as an away supporter. Just to experience that. I tell people that haven't been to a Premier League game live that it's like watching 22 players take the piss out of each other for 90 minutes because you've got to be that good to get past anyone. And it's like nothing. Until you actually get there live, you won't believe it. It's incredible.
Yeah, and the speed of it and everything like that. Like the TV does nothing, like no justice at all to the speed that the games are played and stuff like that. So we'll go back to your cricket career. So unfortunately, it was only the one test against South Africa in Hobart. Coming in at 4 for 8 with Vernon Philander swinging around corners probably wasn't the debut that you thought it was going to be. Now it's actually I don't know why I remember this stuff, and it's funny how you remember random things. But I remember in the first innings you got run out.
Yeah,
and it was a direct hit. One stump to aim at, like it was a fair throw, but all I remember was your brother absolutely blowing up in the grandstands and storming off after you got run out in the first innings. Yeah. What was your kind of recollections of your test debut and how were you feeling during it and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it was a pretty bittersweet week, to be honest. I mean, I debuted for Australia, which is absolutely incredible in Test cricket. So I got a baggy green. Which is the dream, as a young cricketer. So just an amazing experience and something that I look back on really fondly as an amazing an achievement I'm very proud of. Obviously, when you get selected and you're not replacing someone for injury, you sort of think, oh, I'll get a decent crack. I only got the one test, which that did burn, and you try and sort of shelve it and compartmentalise and. But that probably affected me a bit more than I allowed myself to believe at the time. But the week itself was just extraordinary. The lead up was fantastic. Cricket Australia were wonderful in helping me get my family and friends down for the week. And it was special. And then I've mentioned him again, but Greg Blewett, he was the fielding coach at the time, and he actually presented my cap to me. So. As a young player, he had his arm around me as a young player in the Redbacks, really helped me as a mentor coming all the way through. So to have him there and to present my cap was, just extraordinary. I was very lucky with both the caps I received. Shane Warne presented my one-day cap at the MCG of all places. So I got very lucky with who was presenting my caps. But certainly, it was a week I'll never forget. It was a brutally tough week for the Australian cricket team, though. There was quite a famous now speech from James Sutherland at the end of that Test match, which hit the headlines over the last couple of years. But certainly, it was a real landmark moment, I think, for the wrong reasons in Australian cricket, and things really changed direction after that Test. And myself, Adam Voges, Joe Meny, who was also playing his first Test, we all ended up out of the side going into the next one. So, yeah, that was tough from that standpoint. But to actually be involved in a Test match, which is what I'd wanted to do my whole career, I mean, it was just something that I'll never forget and look back very fondly on. It's not often you get run out when the fielder out at deep point has.
I was going to
say direct hits and runs you out by an inch. It's not often that happens, but my brother actually did an interview post game with Nerily Meadows, funnily enough, who I'm working with at the moment, and he basically said, "Oh, look, I didn't even know the run out had taken place. I just spilt my beer and got filthy at myself for doing that, and went off to the bar to get another one." I mean, he's full of shit, my brother, at the best.
Yeah,
but, that was quite a funny moment. But just a great week. One I'll look back on fondly, but still a bit of sweetness about it.
Yeah. Dimi, have you got anything, mate? Yeah, just on your Test career, mate, do you think, because of obviously what happened post that Test, do you think your cards were stamped and sort of you weren't going to be given another opportunity after that game? Did you feel like, obviously you didn't get picked for the next Test, but once you didn't get picked for the next Test, did you think that's me done, or did you actually still have those conversations with the selectors or with the team and think I'm still in and around the squad?
Yeah, it's a good question. I kept playing. I basically kept playing Shield cricket for the next sort of 18 months with the belief that if I could pile on enough runs, I could get back in. I had a tough couple of Shield games post getting dropped, and that probably was going to make it really hard to get back. Because generally, when you get dropped from a team on merit, you'd think they're going to get. There's a couple others they might be looking at before you get your opportunity. I thought my opportunity was still most likely to come in one-day cricket, because my form had been really consistent in that format pretty much all the way through my career. So I was putting really good numbers up in that format, and I thought I was going to get another opportunity there at some point. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I was playing for at least the next 18 months to 2 years, thinking I'm a real chance to get. Well, I'm a chance if I put the performances on the board.
Yeah. And
the selectors were suggesting that was the case, which is great. But particularly in the one-day game, I thought I had something to offer. I'd experienced it and played well at the level before, but that didn't happen either. They went in another direction, and I try and take a pretty well-rounded view on these things. They probably picked me when I debuted ahead of Brad Hodge, who had a pretty similar 18 months in one-day cricket to me, and I got picked, I think, on age, the fact that I was a younger player, and they wanted to bring a bit of balance to the age profile. So I think, in sport, you go into it knowing that injuries happen, and then selection isn't always going to go your way. So if you spend too much time crying poor me, I don't think that's going to get you anywhere, and it's not going to leave you in a sunny spot, I don't think. So I got a good hand dealt to me at times, and then maybe not in others, but that's part and parcel.
Yeah, it kind of. Sorry, Dimi. No, it's just when you were saying that, it kind of made me think a bit of your fellow South Australian Travis Head when he kind of come in, and it sounded like he had a lot of people telling him what to be and how to bat and things like that, and he just kind of got the chat from the skipper Pat Cummins just to say, mate, just be you, and he kind of went, right. If this doesn't work, I'm at least I'm going to play my way, and I'm not going to try and bow. Do you wish, it's great now, do you wish you kind of had someone to give you that kind of advice? Because you probably would have been getting told 100 different things. The media are probably saying that you might sort of hear second or third hand as well. Do you wish you kind of had that, I guess, that information and that freedom and sort of someone like Pat Cummins at the time that could have helped you out in that way?
Yeah, look, I think it depends a bit on, your individual circumstance. So, I was probably playing a bit more of an aggressive brand when I was younger. And then I really made the move up to number 3 from number 4 or 5 with the Redbacks. I went up to number 3 and almost turned myself into a number 3 to try and force my way into the test team by weight of runs, batting a bit higher and in, against the new ball, just to try and show that I had a bit of flexibility. And also the Redbacks, we needed a number 3. Travis Head and I had both batted 4 or 5 for a couple of years. And really, I thought if they were sort of leaning towards pushing Heady to 4 in the long run, rather than batting 5, go to 3. And I think in actual fact, batting on some tricky wickets at number 3 and playing well over the next 2 years really probably gave me the edge over a couple of others that were going for that spot in the top 6 with the test team. So I probably went the other way to Travis. Travis went, no, I'm going the more aggressive way. But for me, because I'd probably gotten to the age of about 29, 30, it was, that's when generally you're on the, you're closer to the end than the start, obviously. So it was actually going the other way that probably got me into the test team at that stage. It's hard to know whether if I'd just kept sticking at it in the middle order, whether I would have got there. But I certainly felt like I had the support that I needed through my career. And as I mentioned, I had Greg Blewett in my corner for long periods of time. Guys like Darren Lehman, I'd played with as a young player. They were always there if I needed a chat. So, I've been very fortunate with the guys that I had as well, just like Heady has been. And I certainly don't think that it was for a lack of that cost me my more opportunities. I think, you want to hang on to the guys that you appreciate the most with regards to guidance as much as you can. And I think I did that pretty well, and I was pretty fortunate as well.
Yeah, nice. Go on, Dimi.
I was going to say one other thing, Callum. Obviously, you had that serious injury. I think it was it the Champions Trophy or World Cup? I can't remember. Champions Trophy.
Yeah, Champions Trophy.
Do you think did that change? Do you think the way you played at all? How much of an effect do you reckon that injury had on your prospects at the time or the next part of your career?
Yeah, look, as I mentioned earlier, injuries happen, but it certainly set me back because I'd played, apart from a game that I got rested when we were 6-0 up against the Poms in a 7-game series, which, that's just standard, isn't it? That's just what we do. I got rested from the 7th game. And apart from that, I'd pretty well played, I'd say 27 games in a row or something like that. And I'd managed to nail down a spot, which, even looking back was, I'm still blown away that I was able to do that. It was the world number 1 team. Some of the guys I was playing with, batting around were, Mike Hussey at times coming in behind me. And looking back, even that's incredible. But then you got Michael Clark batting in front of you, Ricky Ponting, Shane Watson, Brad Haddon in that lineup, some of the greats of Australian cricket. I felt very fortunate to have been a part of that and to win a Champions Trophy with the Australian team, which for listeners that aren't necessarily aware, that's the tournament that is invitation only for the top 10 nations in the world. The World Cup spreads deeper and a lot more nations play in that, but every 4 years they play the Champions Trophy. And the final was actually the game that I blew my knee out in the 49th over of the fielding innings, fielding innings for the tournament, and knee couldn't quite make it through the 50.
Yeah.
So, but I was ready to bat. I remember punter coming up to me and saying, "Can you bat?" And I said, "I'll be fine to stand up and end, and I won't be able to run too quick." But I had no ACL, so they basically strapped it as tight as they could, and I was next in when we got the runs, thankfully. I was just going to have to hold up an end. And I think Watto was caning him around the park, I think, at the time. So thankfully I wasn't required and just hopped along for the next couple of days of celebrations.
Yeah. So when you're with the Australian team, is there any other Premier League fans there that you kind of have a bit of banter with and stuff like that? Or are you kind of the only one that was interested in it all?
I probably had a little bit more interest in it than most. I played a lot of cricket with some redbacks towards the back end. I feel like the Premier League over the last decade in particular has really started to boom in Australia. And a lot of my younger teammates that were coming through were really jumping on the Premier League. And I don't know whether FIFA has much to do with that.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with that, yeah.
I agree, which is a game that Tim Payne and I used to play to death on tour. We went, actually digressing a bit, he and I went with the Australian team to a Bangladesh ODI series. Then we were playing in the same IPL team at the Pune Warriors, and then straight into a World Cup with the Australian one-day team. And we played 324 games, and there were 2 games separating us at the end of it. Yeah, and he and I argue over who had the better of that, whether he was up to or I was up to. Yeah. I'll tell you it was me, and he'll tell you the same. But it's a great game. That no doubt helps a lot of the youngsters get into the sport. But I'd say now is when you're seeing a lot of guys support. I played with a lot of cricket with Nick Winter at the Redbacks, and he's a staunch Chelsea fan. Then Daniel Worrell, Tottenham till he dies. There's a lot of them these days that really have jumped onto the Premier League, and it's great to see because it's a great. It really is a fantastic sport, the round ball game, and I love that it's really starting to boom. My wife's got a decent set of wheels on her as well. She kicks the ball pretty well, and my kids are both showing interest, so that's good news.
Yes, awesome. So with our summer, it's obviously the EPL's played during the winter, which is our summer. When you were playing, were you getting up and watching games in the middle of the night, or were you kind of catching them on the on-demand stuff sort of the next morning?
Yeah, I'd still try and get up if I could, try and get the timing right and make sure I could catch up the hours.
Love that,
But also, there were times when I was on tour overseas and it was perfect timing. So I spent a fair bit of time in India, which I always loved touring India. So to be, in a decent time zone for it over there was good. And then obviously toured to England to play a fair bit of cricket as well. So, obviously perfect to be over there. The timing's not great for cricket season, obviously. It's not perfect, but you can still catch a game either side of the summer. And, it's just such a great, competition and one that you could sit down and watch any of the fixtures for the weekend and walk away pretty happy with your entertainment value. It's I find myself catching, on-demand games of teams that I'm a neutral fan for. I just love it.
Yeah, so do I. I'll get up on after if we play on a Saturday night, like the weekend, watch that. Wake up the next morning and kind of go through the scores and that game looked all right. I'll watch the half an hour mini on Optus watching that. So, that's unreal.
It is, it's really cool.
So, what do you have a favourite memory from since you've been supporting the club? Like, there's been a lot of shit. Probably when you kind of jumped on it probably wasn't at its best. You missed the good stuff at the start, and then you probably got lumped with a lot of shit. But now there's sunshine and rainbows ahead. So do you have a favourite memory that you look back on and think like that was awesome?
Yeah, there's a few. I think when Jonas Gutierrez made his big comeback and scored, I think that was pretty incredible. And then thinking back to when he pulled the Spider-Man mask out of his shorts, what a character he was. Just thought that was a pretty cool moment. I remember Houghton bringing us back up from the championship. Pretty tough period through there. Rafa Benitez's stint, I thought he brought a lot of hope back, I think. You look at the other side of things and then you think back when Kevin Keegan had finally had enough of the ownership and stepped away from the team again and all the shirts went into the Tyne. I think it's never a dull moment with the Toon, but I don't know. I just think any time Alan Shearer rose the hand and ran to the corner, it had me up and about. And any time, still fond memories of watching the Duke take the field with Newcastle and watching Mark Viduka put the ball in the back of the net was always pretty special as an Australian.
Yeah, it's funny you do get, and I think he's probably slated a bit more over there than what he is here. Like he's a revered figure, and his sort of recluseness in retirement just adds to that kind of aura of him and things like that.
The legend, the legend.
Yeah, it's awesome. But he's like I loved it, and I think we had Craig Moore before that kind of played as well for a season or two. But you do, and no one will have a bad word to say. No Aussie will ever have a bad word to say about Mark Viduka when he's playing for your club, and it doesn't matter what the locals think and stuff like that. He'll always hold a special place for us anyway.
I always thought he got a raw deal in the Australian media and amongst the fans.
Yeah.
He wasn't the guy that was going to necessarily. His ability to touch the ball at someone's feet in the box, and he wasn't necessarily going to put him in the back of the net. But geez, he helped us put some in the back of the net. And he helped us score. He just had great touch around the box and such a great target player. It grated at me how much he copped when he was playing for Australia. We were so lucky to have him for so long.
Yeah. Well, for a man his size, he was that skillful. He was probably the most skillful target man, so to speak, or big guy, probably arguably in the world, let alone in Australian football. And
he was incredible.
Obviously, a lot of people were judging him on his goals for Australia, which wasn't obviously sensational, but he did so much more for Australia. And I mean, him when he first sort of made his name at Leeds, I mean that team and his football when he was playing at Leeds was out of this world. And I don't think many big guys moved the way he did, and the skill and the touch and the finesse that he had for a man his size was brilliant. And Australia, even to this day, Australia's still trying to find the replacement for Mark Viduka 15 years after he's retired. So that's how special and how good he was, and we still haven't got a replacement for Big Duke. So yeah, he's definitely not going to be slated in any way, shape, or form in our mouths.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, he's awesome. So if you spoke about Alan Shearer earlier and stuff like that, and the god that he is, if I had to ask you who your top three Newcastle players were since you've been following the club, who'd be second and third then?
Jeez. I mean, I think it's really hard to pinpoint because we've had some fantastic players. I mean, Lascelles has been such a staunch and strong player. He's been a pillar of strength down the back. For so many years, he stood by the club and
held the dressing room together when things were burning around him and everything like that.
100%. So
that sort of stuff can't go.
No, you're right. So he's not necessarily. He was never the headline maker, but for just what he'd done, I think, and even to this day, whenever he gets an opportunity, he does the job for us. So he's obviously got to be one of them. I still remember some moments that Cisse gave us when he first came to the club, and that goal against Chelsea. I mean, I'm not going to have him in the top three, I don't think, but good.
It's still one of the.
He had a run. He had a run for about 6 months where he was scoring goals from here, there, and everywhere, and he was of playing like one of the best players in the world for that 6 months. He was just out of control.
I'll never forget that goal, Callum. It was in the morning, so it was like an early kickoff for us in the morning. So 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever the time was, and like we'd never looked like getting anything ever at Stamford Bridge, and there's a throw in on the camera side, and thinking just roll it into the corner, like let's choose some time and stuff like that. And then he's pulled this shot, and my first instinct was, what are you doing? Like all the players have loaded over that side, and you've kicked it, and you've left we're completely exposed on the other side of the ground. And then it dropped in, and I was in shock. I couldn't believe what I'd just seen, and I still remember. Didier Drogba was near the bench as well, and him and Pardew just kind of looked at each other and laughed. It's like, mate, what's going on? And Pardew's like, no, I don't know, mate. Like, I've got nothing for you.
Yeah, I mean, I just when you start saying top three players, I mean, you just start thinking of highlight reels. But I mean, we've had greats of the game. Paul Gascoigne, what a play, but obviously didn't see much of him playing. Andy Cole, we've had some greats, but. Shola Amiobi. I mean, you think of a guy like him who was just such a
cult hero,
regular cult hero. I think you'd have to say, Janola. I mean, we've had such a rich list of players that have graced the field at St James's, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to put a top 3 together for you. But,
That's fine. That's fine. What about if I asked you your thoughts on the current season and stuff like that? How do you think that's all gone?
Yeah, I mean, I as a fan, I'm pretty proud of the way that they've held it together. You look at the injury list; it's been extraordinary. I'm not sure I've ever seen a Premier League side go through it. I mean,
I
Chelsea
definitely haven't
had a pretty tough run in the last 12 to 18 months too, I reckon. I wouldn't give Nick Winter that. I wouldn't tell him that he's. It's their own.
Don't
fault.
give him an out. Yeah,
they brought in injured players, But no, I think when you look at the injury list, what Eddie Howe and his team have been able to do has been pretty extraordinary. And they held pretty firm, pretty well. They had some tough periods, but for the most part, you could tell the effort was there. We had young players getting blooded who were showing some signs even through losses. That's only going to leave us in a better situation next year. The fact we're pushing for a Europe spot right now is incredible for mine. I just thought if we can finish pretty well and get some momentum into next year, we're in good shape. It's been a hell of a run. You've got to give it to Eddie Howe. I think he's been fantastic, and the team seems to want to play for him, which is the big thing.
Yeah, awesome. Demi, have you got anything else before we wrap this bad boy up, mate?
Not really. I just wanted to say to Callum, what do you, as a Newcastle fan, obviously we've seen a lot of rubbish now. Do you expect or do you hope that there is trophies on the horizon? What do you realistically expect from us in the next couple of seasons? Do you think we can break our trophy drought?
Yeah. Look, I think as a Newcastle fan, you'd sort of almost end up becoming a bit of a pessimist. Like you think back to when Pardew had us running pretty well for a while, and then we started selling our best players. I used to really, actually, a name I missed earlier, Johan Cabaye. I used to love watching him. He was a bit of a wizard, playmaker. And, I just remember us starting to sell players off when we got into good spots. And I almost, I instinctively think, it's just a matter of time before Isaac leaves. Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I do feel like, if we don't start selling players off this off season, I feel like we're in a good spot. I do feel like I'm starting to believe that, we have trophies on the horizon. I do feel this is obviously a very different regime to what we've seen over the last couple of decades. So the belief is almost there. I'm not quite ready to ink it. It's still probably penciled. I think there's trophies coming. I just want us to get through the next transfer window without diminishing the squad. And if we do that, looking at the list we've got right now, I feel like the world's our oyster because we've got some great talent coming through and they're young, which really gives us a lot to look forward to, I think.
Yeah, and I think that was a deliberate ploy too from the owners to buy young and buy them when they're a bit cheaper rather than buy them at their prime when they're going to cost a lot more than what they do or what they did when we bought them. So, yeah, I agree. I honestly think if you can't eliminate injuries and stuff like that, but if we had a decent run, I've got no doubt we would have been fourth again. Like, no doubt in my mind that we would have got that. Just even if we had just half the injury list, and it didn't matter. You can take and pick which 6 or 7, because it was getting out to 14 at sometimes there. You can pick which ones you want. You can pick whatever 7 you like or whatever 6 you like. But I honestly believe if we had at least the other 6 available to play, we'd be fourth. And last year wasn't a fluke. I think we fully deserve fourth. And I think given our season this year and what we've done, and considering how far we are off fourth, some of them draws can turn into wins. It's just anyway. If you honey had balls, should be your uncle. So it's easy to say in hindsight and stuff like that.
Exciting times, though. It's exciting times compared to what we've seen over the last couple of decades. It really is exciting times. So get excited, Toon fans.
Absolutely. All right, mate. Well, Cal, I can't thank you enough for jumping on tonight, mate.
No, thanks for having me.
Dimi, thank you. I know you've got a lot going on at home, so for you to find 40 minutes of your time as well to jump on, it means a lot. So stay tuned. We'll probably have a Man United review after the midweek game. Hopefully we can get something out of that, and we're one game away from a European spot again. So once again, thanks very much, Cal, for your time. Thanks, Dimi, and thanks everyone for watching and listening. And we'll see you all next time.
Away the lads.